Hey everybody, it is Jamie from Jamie Riddler Studios, and today I wanted to share with you some cool things I got as an art infusion for 10 bucks. Okay, so what I'm going to share with you today is perhaps not the sexiest of art supplies, but we all need some basics. And I'm gonna go back on that and say, you know what, I actually do find this kind of stuff really sexy. Do you find stationery stores sexy? Do you find organizational boxes sexy? I do! And this is that kind of thing. When you're starting to do painting, one of the things you need is something to mix your paints on, something to add a little water or add a different color, and usually you use some kind of palette. And there's all kinds to use. You can use paper ones. I've never done that, but I'm looking at that as something to explore. I used to use just plastic plates I got from the dollar store because it was simple, and for me it was really important to use non-intimidating materials. But I started to feel really bad about how much my art was adding to the landfill. So I was looking to come up with an alternative. So here's what I'm using. Well, here's what I got to use. I'll tell you how it works out. So have you seen these? They're just like little display plates. Often people put them on their table and they've got like pretty little things. I'm looking around to see what I could put on it. You know, it might be a display. You've got a beautiful little ball, and then maybe you put some flowers. But I'm gonna mess it up with paint. And I thought this should be easily cleanable, and I thought this was a good shape for the space where I paint, that it would be long and narrow so that it wouldn't take up too much of the table space and could sit right above the board that I like to paint on. And of course I didn't just buy one, I bought two, because it's always the most fun to have an art day with a friend. So in that same genre, I bought these three little containers, I guess, that most people use to put out nuts or maybe to organize your earrings, but I'm going to use them for water. And it's really nice to have different pots of water, because sometimes when you're using a lot of colors, you end up cross-contaminating your colors, and that can make some of your things muddy. And so this way I have different spots for different water. Now, I have been looking for quite a while. I love the idea of finding unique little bowls and I love kitchenwares. I love organizational wares, and I love this stuff too. And so I wanted to get something a little unique, something that would look really nice in pictures. And I was looking and I was looking, and I thought, you know, one of the things that happens when you're shopping for treasures, especially in secondhand shops, is they show up when they show up. In the meantime, I just needed something to hold water. So this is what I'm starting with, and that'll take the pressure off so I can keep looking for the just right, perfect thing to hold water in my studio. Now, speaking of like those kinds of treasures, look what I found. This is so crazy. So have you seen one of these before? What it actually is a serving tray for deviled eggs. But I thought, oh my gosh, what a perfect palette. And you can have your different colors in different places. You could put a bit of water in here too. So I'm really excited to try that out and see how it works. For $2, I figured I'd experiment. And that was the case with all of these things. You'll notice too, I like white. I know people always say that creative people love lots of color, and I sure love color. But I also love the spaciousness of white. And I also know that whatever palette that I'm working with is going to look so fabulous and pure and true on a very neutral background like this. And that will, one, make it easier for me to discern the exactness of the color, but also look awesome in pictures. And the last thing that I bought was a little spray container, because lots of times when I've taken mixed media classes, people have used these to do ink, and also sometimes just to wet the surface down or to let it drip or to create a bit of an effect. So I'm going to experiment with that. All of these are pretty much an experiment, but for $10, it's worth trying. I'll let you know how they turn out, and I hope that you too find some of these. I can't think of the right word for what you would call these kinds of materials in your studio. They're not supplies, they're not tools. Do you have a good word for it? What would you call it? They're not supports. Yeah, I'd be so curious what you come up with. That is what I came up with on a $10 budget to add a bit of inspiration and infusion into my studio. I hope it inspired you to get into your studio too.